In the vast golden hall of the eternal throne, chandeliers shimmered like captured stars as Miral trembled in the shadows of power. The mute Omega scribe in simple gray robes felt every noble I dismiss her with familiar sting. King Soran tall and commanding thrust the heavy parchment of the peace treaty toward her. "Witness this treaty with your mark, girl," he commanded, his voice booming. "Your silence makes you perfect for this task." Her fingers brushed the document and fire exploded through her veins. 17 fraudulent clauses burned like poison, flooding her nervous system. Her body convulsed violently, collapsing to the polished floor as visions of betrayal flooded her mind. She fought back, her hand moving with desperate purpose, slashing out each lie with fierce strokes, exposing 17 deceptions. The foreign envoys fled in panic. King Soran stared at the ruined treaty, his features shifting from fury to disbelief. "What have you done?" he demanded, his voice thick with confusion. Inside, Miral's thoughts surged. "For years I was invisible, a silent shadow. But today my truth has spoken." "Which country are you listening from? Please comment below. I'd love to know how far this story reaches." As the world spun, Miral wondered if this act would shatter her chains or bring greater rejection from the king who had once turned from their fated bond. The grand palace corridors stretched endlessly before Miral as she carried another stack of parchment through the morning light. Days had passed since the treaty signing ceremony, where her body had convulsed and her hidden gift had exploded into action. Yet here in the daily rhythm of palace life, she remained as invisible as the dust motes dancing in the sunbeams. Nobles brushed past her, without a glance, their fine silks whispering against her plain gray robes. She was the mute Omega scribe, a shadow tasked with recording their words, but never her own. Her heart ached with the familiar weight of invisibility. In her thoughts she wondered how long she could remain unseen, when the truth now burned so brightly within her. She entered the scribe's wing, where the scent of ink and aged paper filled the air like a comforting embrace. Other servants moved about their tasks, some chatting in low voices. Miral, a gentle beta maid, who had become her quiet confidant, approached with a concerned smile. "Miral, you were so brave at the ceremony," she whispered, glancing around to ensure privacy. "The entire palace is buzzing about how you ruined the king's treaty. Are you all right?" Miral nodded slowly, setting down her document. She picked up a quill and wrote on a small slate, "I did what I had to." The clauses were lies that would have destroyed everything. Miris's eyes widened with a mix of admiration and fear. "You have a gift, don't you? One that lets you see through deception." But Miral, being mute in this world of powerful alphas, is dangerous enough. "You must hide it better, or they will use you until you break." Miral's inner thoughts swirled like a stormy sea. "For so long I have been the silent one, the one they overlook. My voice was taken from me as a child, and my place in this world reduced to nothing. Yet when my hands touched that parchment, the truth revealed itself like lightning. It showed me I am more than this invisible existence. I long for a voice, not just to speak, but to change things for all who have been silenced like me." As she continued her daily tasks, Miral moved through the bustling halls with quiet grace. She sorted through minor contracts and letters for lower council members. Her fingers brushed one document, and a faint tremor ran through her, a smaller echo of the violent reaction from the ceremony. The words spoke of fair trade, but her gift whispered of hidden taxes meant to oppress border villages. She did not mark it this time, only noting it in her mind. The power inside her was both gift and burden. Cinematic images filled her thoughts, the way sunlight caught on golden tapestries, the distant sound of court laughter, and the cold marble beneath her feet, all reminding her of her small place in this vast kingdom. Later, in the quiet garden courtyard, she found a moment alone. Flowers bloomed in vibrant colors, their petals soft under her touch. She sat on a stone bench, letting the warm breeze caress her face. Memories surfaced in short flashes of her early days in the palace, after the king had rejected their fated bond. He had looked at her with disappointment in his eyes, declaring her too weak for a queen. Instead, he had assigned her this role of scribe, thinking it merciful. But it had only deepened her isolation. Her inner voice cried out, "Why must I remain silent when my truth could heal so much?" The bond between us still pulls at my heart even if he ignores it. I feel his presence in the palace like a distant storm, and it both frightens and calls to me. Mira joined her again, carrying a tray of simple food. "You look lost in thought, Miral," she said softly. "The other servants talk about the foreign envoys who fled. They say war might still come because of what happened. The king has been in closed meetings all morning." Miral wrote quickly on her slate, "I only exposed the lies. Now the kingdom must face the real threats." Mira sighed, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Just promise me you will stay safe. Omegas like us have suffered enough under old ways. Your courage could inspire others, but it could also bring danger." Miral felt a surge of empowering emotion. In her heart she resolved that this invisibility would not last forever. Her gift was awakening something greater, a voice for the voiceless and power for those long overlooked. As the sun climbed higher, a messenger rushed into the courtyard, his face pale. "The king demands your presence immediately in the council chamber. The treaty fallout has worsened, and he believes you hold answers." Miral's pulse quickened. The mini cliffhanger hung in the air as she wondered if this summons would bring her closer to her destiny or deeper into the king's regretful gaze. Miral moved through the shadowed corridor, her steps soft on the cool marble, as the messenger's urgent words still rang in her ears. "The king demands your presence immediately in the council chamber." Her pulse quickened with a mix of dread and quiet resolve, the faint bond between her and King Soran tugging like an invisible thread. She paused in a sunlit alcove where golden rays filtered through arched windows, painting the walls in warm hues of amber and rose. The air carried the faint scent of blooming jasmine from the gardens beyond, reminding her of fragile beauty in a world of rigid power. Her mind drifted, then pulling her into a vivid flashback that unfolded like pages turning in an ancient book. She was a child of only 8 in the dusty village orphanage where silence had already become her shield. A letter had arrived one gray morning claiming her parents had willingly left her behind for a better life far away. The words on the parchment had seemed kind at first, but when her small fingers brushed the paper, violent convulsions seized her tiny frame. Visions flooded her, the truth revealed in searing flashes. The letter was a forgery crafted by corrupt officials eager to seize her family's modest land after her parents' tragic accident. Lies about abandonment had been woven to erase any claim she might have. In her pain, she had scratched out the false sentences with a borrowed quill, her hands trembling as the deceptions burned through her like poison. The orphanage matron had found her collapsed and punished her harshly, declaring her a cursed child who brought only trouble. From that day, Miral learned to hide her gift deep within, burying it under layers of mute obedience. She had vowed never to let it surface again, fearing it would mark her as even more unworthy in a kingdom where Omegas were meant to remain unseen and unheard. Back in the present, Miral leaned against the cool stone, her breath steadying as the memory faded. The gift had remained dormant for years, surfacing only in subtle whispers during her palace duties. She recalled the previous week when she had handled a minor trade agreement for a lesser noble. Her fingertips had detected the faint tremor of deceit, a clause hiding unfair levies on border farmers. She had not marked it, then only noting the falsehood in her private thoughts, choosing survival over confrontation. Now after the treaty ceremony, the power inside her felt alive, restless, like a caged bird finally sensing open skies. In her inner thoughts a storm of emotion swirled. For so long I hid this truth detection to endure the weight of invisibility. It kept me safe in shadows, but at what cost? My voice was stolen early by a fever that left me mute, and the world decided I was lesser for it. Yet this gift is my hidden strength, a way to pierce through deception and reveal what others dare not see. I am more than the silent scribe, more than the rejected mate the king once cast aside. If only I could wield it without fear, perhaps I could finally claim a voice for all like me, the powerless, the overlooked. A soft footfall interrupted her reverie, and Mira appeared from a side passage, her beta features soft with concern. "Miral, there you are," she said in a hushed tone, glancing over her shoulder. "I heard about the king's summons after what happened with the treaty. The palace whispers grow louder every hour. Are you truly all right? You looked so frail when your body reacted to that parchment." Miral offered a small nod and pulled her slate from her robe pocket, her quill moving swiftly across it. The gift awoke fully that day, Mira. It has always been there since childhood, when a false letter about my parents nearly broke me. It floods me with visions of lies and lets me expose them, but the pain is like fire in my vein. I have hidden it to survive, fearing it would make me a target. Myra's eyes widened with quiet awe and empathy. You never told me the full story before. That must have been terrifying as a little girl. But Miral, think of it this way. Your ability is not a curse, it is a light in the darkness. The king may have dismissed you years ago, seeing only your silence and status, but perhaps this is the moment your truth changes everything. You saved the kingdom from those fraudulent clauses. That makes you powerful even if the world has tried to keep you invisible. Miral felt a warm surge of empowerment from her friend's words, her inner voice responding with newfound courage. Yes, Mira, you see me when others do not. This gift is my voice now, the one that cannot be silent. It empowers me to stand against the lies that bind omegas like us in chains of expectation. I will no longer shrink from it, even if the path ahead feels uncertain. Their conversation lingered a moment longer in the alcove, the cinematic glow of sunlight wrapping around them like a promise of brighter days. Mira squeezed her hand gently before stepping back. Be careful in there with the council. They fear what they cannot control. Miral nodded, tucking the slate away and continuing toward the grand doors of the council chamber. Her thoughts turned cinematic, the vast kingdom beyond the palace walls, seeming to hum with potential change. As she reached for the ornate handle, a royal attendant burst through from the other side, his face flushed. The king has summoned you again, Miral, and with greater urgency. The fallout from the treaty has escalated, and he believes your gift holds the key to averting disaster. But beware the council members' murmur of treason against any who challenge the old ways. Miral's heart leaped with a mix of anticipation and tension, the mini cliffhanger hanging in the air like a gathering storm. Would this second summons finally force her hidden truth into the light, or push her back into the shadows she had known for so long? Miral hesitated at the towering oak doors of the council chamber, her fingers hovering inches from the carved handle as the attendant's urgent warning lingered like smoke in the air. The polished wood gleamed under flickering torchlight, ancient symbols of alphas and omegas locked in. Eternal unity, now seeming to mock the fragile peace she had shattered with her truth. Her heart pounded in rhythm with the distant murmur of voices beyond the threshold, each beat carrying the weight of invisible chains she had worn for far too long. She closed her eyes for a moment, the faint bond with King Soran pulling at her soul, a quiet ache that reminded her of the rejection that had defined her place in this world. In her inner thoughts a tide of fear rose unbidden. What if they see me now not as the silent scribe, but as a threat, a mute omega who dares expose the lies of the powerful? The convulsions from the treaty still echoed in her nerves, a burning reminder that her gift could save kingdoms yet destroy the fragile safety she had carved for herself. The memory crashed over her like a sudden storm, pulling her back to a rain-soaked village square. Years earlier, when she was barely 15 and still clinging to the hope of family. She had been living with distant relatives after the fever stole her voice as a child. A letter had arrived from the local magistrate promising aid for their struggling farm. Miral's small hands had brushed the parchment during a quiet evening meal, and the violent convulsions had seized her without mercy. Visions flooded her mind, revealing the truth. The document was a forgery designed to seize their land under false pretenses of debt. Gasping in pain, she had grabbed a quill and scratched out the fraudulent clauses, her mute cries silent, but her actions screaming defiant. Her relatives had found her collapsed on the floor, the ruined letter clutched in her trembling fingers. Instead of gratitude, the village elders had declared her cursed, a vessel for dark omens that brought only ruin. Punishment came swift in cold lashes from a leather strap across her back as she knelt in the mud while the crowd watched in fearful silence. You bring nothing but lies and misfortune, the elder had snarled, his voice thick with disgust. Your muteness is a sign from the gods, and this so-called gift is a poison that will taint us all. Her family had turned away that very night, abandoning her at the orphanage gates with nothing but a small bundle of clothes and a final note that read, "She is no longer ours to bear." The abandonment cut deeper than any lash, leaving scars on her spirit that time could not fully heal. In the flashback, her younger self had curled up alone in the dim dormitory, her inner voice whispering through tears, "Why must my truth make me unwanted? I only wanted to protect them, yet it drove them away." Back in the present, Miral pressed a hand to her chest, steadying herself against the cool stone wall beside the doors. The cinematic glow of torch flames danced across her simple gray robes, casting long shadows that mirrored the hidden fears still lurking within her. She pulled her slate from her pocket, her quill moving with quiet determination as she wrote a single line for the attendant who waited nearby. "The past taught me silence keeps me safe, but my gift demands I speak through action now." The attendant, a kind-eyed beta, nodded with empathy, though his voice remained professional. "The king awaits Miral, and the council grows restless. Whatever happened in your youth, remember this moment could change everything for those who feel as invisible as you once did." His words touched something deep within her, sparking a flicker of empowerment amid the trauma. In her thoughts, Miral felt the shift, a quiet resolve blooming like dawn after endless night. "I was abandoned for my muteness and punished for my truth, yet here I stand, alive and awakening. This fear will not define me any longer. I am more than the girl left behind, more than the shadow they cast aside. My journey from silenced pain to empowered voice begins with facing the very king who once rejected our bond. The bond still hums between us, a gentle reminder that even in his mistake there may be redemption." She straightened her posture, drawing a deep breath as the doors creaked open under the attendant's push. The council chamber unfolded before her, a vast room of marble pillars and heavy tapestries where maps of the kingdom stretched across long tables like living rivers of power and peril. King Soran stood at the head, his broad shoulders tense under royal robes, his alpha presence commanding yet carrying a subtle undercurrent of uncertainty she could sense through their faint connection. Council members murmured in low tones, their eyes flicking toward her with suspicion and curiosity. Miral stepped inside, her steps measured on the ornate rug, the air thick with the scent of aged ink and polished wood. Emotional dialogue broke the tension as one counselor leaned forward, his voice sharp. "You have caused quite the stir, girl, with your marks on the treaty. Explain yourself before we decide if your actions were treason or miracle." Miral met his gaze steadily, writing swiftly on her slate. The clauses were lies that would have invited war and betrayal. My gift revealed them, because truth cannot stay hidden forever. The king watched her, his expression unreadable, but she caught a flicker of something deeper in his eyes, perhaps the first stirrings of regret. Inside her mind, the trauma resurfaced in short flashes, the lashes, the abandonment, the years of invisibility, all fueling her quiet strength. "I will not shrink from this. My voice may be mute, but my truth will rise and empower every Omega who has ever been silenced." As the council's murmurs grew louder, a royal messenger burst in from a side entrance, his face pale with alarm. "My king, urgent word from the borders. The foreign envoys have regrouped and demand answers for the ruined treaty. They threaten renewed conflict unless the matter is resolved at once." King Soran turned his gaze, locking onto Miral with intensity. "You are summoned again, scribe, and this time the kingdom's fate may rest on what your gift uncovers next." Miral felt a wave of dread wash over her, the mini cliffhanger hanging heavy in the charged air. Would this next command pull her deeper into the fire of exposure, or finally allow her hidden strength to illuminate the path toward true power and voice? Miral followed the attendant through the winding palace corridors, her heart echoing with the steady rhythm of destiny unfolding as the bond with King Soran tugged insistently at her core like a silken cord, drawing her toward shadows she could no longer ignore. The air grew heavier with the scent of burning candles and aged leather as they approached the royal strategy chamber, where maps of contested borders lay spread across a massive oak table like veins of a living kingdom pulsing with unseen threat. Torchlight flickered across the high vaulted ceiling, casting dramatic golden patterns that danced like warnings from the gods themselves. She stepped inside the room alive with tension, the king standing tall at the head of the table, his broad shoulders rigid under crimson robes, his alpha aura radiating command, yet laced with a subtle strain that only she could sense through their fated connection. Counselors huddled in clusters, their faces etched with worry, as a breathless scout delivered urgent scrolls detailing the foreign envoys regrouping at the border, their whispers of revenge spreading like wildfire after the treaty's exposure. In her inner thoughts, Miral felt the surge of empowerment rising against the old fear. This pull between us, it has always been there, even after his rejection, when he deemed me too silent, too weak for a queen. Now it calls me not as a shadow, but as the one who can illuminate the betrayal he never saw coming. I was invisible for so long, but my gift awakens me to stand beside him, not beneath. The cinematic scene unfolded before her eyes, the scout unrolling a fresh parchment marked with official seals claiming safe passage for renewed talks, yet her fingers itched with the familiar tremor as she approached the table unbidden, drawn by the bond's quiet insistence. King Soran glanced up, his dark eyes meeting hers for a heartbeat, a flicker of surprise softening the hard lines of his face. "Scribe, you arrive at the precise moment we need clarity," he said, his voice deep and resonant, carrying the weight of a ruler burdened by the fallout. "The envoys send this missive promising peace, but I sense deception in every line. Their armies mass along the river, and one wrong step could ignite war." Miral's pulse quickened as she reached for the document, her hand brushing the parchment with deliberate calm. The violent convulsions struck almost immediately, though softer now, controlled by her growing mastery, a rush of poison like fire flooding her nerves with visions of the true intent. The clauses spoke of alliance, but revealed plots of assassination, hidden in the envoy's camp. A poison dagger meant for the king during any parley, and false alliances with discontented nobles inside the palace walls. Her body trembled slightly, but she held firm, her mind sharpening like a quill's edge as the truths burned clear. Without hesitation, she withdrew her slate and quill, writing swiftly across it before sliding the warning note toward the king, his fingers grazing hers in a spark that sent warmth through the bond. "The missive lies, my king," she wrote, the words flowing with quiet power. "It conceals an assassination plot and internal traitors. Do not meet them without guards at the eastern gate, and search the southern barracks for forged alliances. Trust this truth as it saved the treaty before." The king read her note, his expression shifting from command to stunned realization as he passed it to the nearest counselor. "How could you know this, Miral?" he asked, his tone laced with emotional depth, a rare vulnerability cracking through his alpha resolve. "Your gift, it humbles me more each time. I forced you to witness that treaty, thinking your silence made you safe neutral, but now I see it has made you the shield I never deserved." The counselors murmured in disbelief, one stepping forward with doubt in his voice. "My liege, this Omega has no rank to advise on such matters. She ruined the original document, and now she claims to unravel borders with a single touch." King Soran raised a hand, silencing him, his gaze never leaving Miral. "She has proven her worth twice over. Without her warning, we might have walked into betrayal blind. Tell me, scribe, what else does your vision reveal?" The room fell into a cinematic hush, the maps seeming to breathe under the torchlight as distant thunder rumbled beyond the palace walls, mirroring the storm of change within. Miral felt a profound shift in her inner world, the trauma of past abandonments fading against this moment of recognition. "For years I hid in daily invisibility, sorting letters no one valued while the bond ached unanswered. But today my truth saves him indirectly through ink and insight, not swords or shouts. This empowers me to rise from the silence to the seer, the one who gives voice to the voiceless by exposing what power conceals." She wrote again, her hand steady now. "The envoys plot revenge because the 17 lies I scratched exposed their greed. They fear your sovereignty, but my gift shows a path to true peace if you act swiftly. Send riders to the river ford with this exact warning and fortify the inner gates." The king nodded, absorbing her words with a depth that hinted at regret stirring beneath his regal facade. "You speak volumes in silence, Miral," he replied, his voice softening with genuine emotion that made the bond hum brighter between them. "I once turned from our connection believing strength lay only in loud commands and powerful bloodlines. Your quiet courage reveals my blindness. Stay close from now on. Your presence may be the key to averting this shadow of betrayal." As the counselors scrambled to dispatch orders, the cinematic tension in the chamber thickened with the scent of rain-soaked earth drifting through open arches. Miral stood taller in her simple robes, the weight of her gift no longer a burden, but a crown of inner power. She watched the king issue commands, his movements decisive, yet infused with a new respect that warmed her soul like sunlight after endless gray. In her thoughts she marveled at the slow unfolding of possibility. This is my journey from oppressed to empowered, from mute witness to indispensable ally. The bond pulls stronger now, earned through truth not force, and I sense his heart opening though the path remains slow and earned. Yet even as victory seemed near, a second scout burst into the chamber, his cloak muddied and eyes wide with alarm. "My king, the envoys have launched a covert strike. A poisoned arrow has felled a guard at the outer perimeter, and they demand the scribe who ruined their plans be delivered, or war begins at dawn." King Soran's face hardened, his hand instinctively reaching toward Miral as the bond flared with protective urgency. The mini cliffhanger hung in the charged air like a drawn blade. Would this new peril force the king to confront his past mistake fully, or pull Miral into dangers that tested her awakening voice beyond the palace walls? Miral stood frozen in the flickering torchlight of the strategy chamber, the scout's alarming word slicing through the air like a hidden blade forged from the very deceptions she had exposed. "The poisoned arrow has felled a guard at the outer perimeter, and they demand the scribe who ruined their plans be delivered, or war begins at dawn." Her breath caught in her throat as the fated bond with King Soran flared to life, an urgent, insistent pull that wrapped around her heart like warm vines, drawing her forward despite the fear coiling in her veins. She felt it stronger now, this invisible thread connecting their souls, a silent call that whispered of danger, not just to the kingdom, but to the man who had once rejected her as unworthy. In her inner thoughts, empowerment bloomed amid the chaos. "The bond calls me not as the invisible Omega scribe, but as the one who can turn the tide. I was forced into shadows after his dismissal, yet here it urges me to save him again, proving my truth holds more power than any army." The cinematic scene unfolded with dramatic intensity, rain beginning to patter against the arch, windows casting silvery streaks across the maps, while counselors scrambled in hushed panic, their faces pale under the golden glow. King Soran turned to her, his alpha presence commanding, yet laced with a vulnerability she sensed. Through their connection, his dark eyes locking onto hers with raw intensity. "Miral, the envoy strike because of the treaty you unraveled," he said, his voice deep and resonant, carrying the weight of a ruler facing unseen enemies. "They want you delivered, as if you are the threat instead of their lies. I will not allow it, but we need your gift now more than ever. Stay by my side." Her pulse quickened at his words, the slow approach of trust building between them like dawn breaking over storm cloud. She nodded, stepping closer, her simple gray robes brushing against the edge of the table as she reached for the stack of forged documents the scout had brought in haste, scrolls sealed with the envoy's deceptive crests claiming truce while hiding venom. Her fingers brushed the first parchment, and the familiar fire ignited, though tempered by her growing mastery, convulsions rippling through her frame like controlled waves rather than shattering tides. Visions flooded her mind, clear and piercing, the assassination plot linked directly to the treaties. Fraudulent clauses, a hidden network of traitors within the palace walls paid to slip poison into the king's evening wine, and archers positioned in the western towers ready to strike at midnight. The lies burned like poison in her nerves, but she held steady, her mind sharpening with purpose as she scratched out the false assurances on the documents, her quill moving with fierce determination, exposing the web of betrayal. The king watched her actions, his expression shifting from concern to awe, a subtle softening in his regal features that hinted at the regret stirring deeper within. Miral, you unravel their schemes as if the truth itself bends to your will, he murmured, his voice lowering with emotional weight meant for her ears alone. I once pushed you away, believing in Omega's silence meant weakness, that our bond was a mistake in the eyes of the throne. But your courage in these moments, it reveals my error with every line you mark. Tell me what you see. She paused, her body steadying as the vision settled, and pulled her slate forward, writing with steady hands, the words flowing like a quiet river of power. The attempt is set for midnight, my king, linked to the treaty's hidden greed. Poison in your chambers and archers in the towers. Evacuate the west wing and replace the wine with a decoy. The traitors are 3 nobles in the lower council, paid in gold from the envoy's coffers. Her inner thoughts surged with empowering clarity. This gift that once brought me trauma and abandonment now saves the very king who dismissed me. I am no longer the mute witness forced to sign away peace. I am the voice of truth, rising from invisibility to shield the kingdom, and perhaps even his heart. The bond pulls us closer, earned through these shared dangers, not demanded by status, and it fills me with hope that my journey from silence to powerful is unfolding as it should. Counselors murmured in disbelief, one stepping forward with skepticism etched on his face. My liege, how can we trust the visions of a scribe, no matter her gift? The envoys demand her head, and delivering her might buy us time. King Soran's gaze hardened, his hand instinctively moving to rest near Miral's shoulder, a protective gesture that sent warmth through the bond like sunlight piercing clouds. She has saved us twice already, he replied, his tone firm, yet infused with newfound respect. Her truth exposed the treaty's 17 lies, and now it unmasks assassins in our midst. I will not sacrifice the one who stands as our shield. Miral, prepare the warning notes. We will act on your insight immediately. The room buzzed with cinematic urgency, servants rushing to secure the chambers while rain intensified outside, thunder rumbling like the kingdom's awakening to change. Miral felt a profound shift within her, the trauma of past punishments fading as this moment affirmed her worth. Her daily life of invisibility among palace halls seemed distant, now replaced by the empowering reality of being seen for her gift. The king leaned closer, his voice softening further in a rare private exchange. Miral, I sense the bond strengthening between us, he confessed, the words carrying deep emotion that made her heart flutter. My initial mistake in rejecting you has made it haunts me more each time your truth illuminates the path. Stay close tonight. Your presence calms the storm I did not know raged within. She wrote back, her response simple, yet laced with quiet strength. I feel it too, my king, but trust is earned slowly. My voice may be mute, but my actions speak for all the voiceless Omegas who dream of power. Together we can forge real peace. As orders echoed through the chamber and guards mobilized, Miral remained at his side, the bond's call guiding her steps with gentle insistence. She helped examine additional forged letters, uncovering one final layer of the plot, a secret meeting in the gardens where traitors planned to strike if the poison failed. Her quill scratched out the deceptions with precision, each mark a step toward her transformation from oppressed shadow to empowered ally. The king issued commands with renewed vigor, his alpha aura now intertwined with a humility that drew her closer emotionally, if not yet fully in word. In her thoughts she marveled at the slow burn connection forming. This is my arc unfolding, the invisible one rising through truth while he confronts his regret. The romance builds not in haste, but in these shared battles of ink and insight, empowering me to believe I can change more than just this night. Yet even as the palace braced for the midnight hour, a breathless guard burst through the doors, his armor glistening with rain. My king, the archers have been spotted moving into position earlier than expected, and one carries a message demanding the scribe's presence at the border camp by first light, or the poison will claim more than one life. King Soran's hand tightened subtly near hers, the bond flaring with protective fire as the mini cliffhanger loomed heavy in the rain-lashed night. Would this escalated threat force them into open confrontation, or deepen the fragile alliance between her truth and his redemption? Welcome back to the Whispers of Alpha King channel. Today we're going to present a new story that I believe you'll be very curious about and interested in because of its incredibly captivating content. Now, let's explore it together until the end of the video. This is a fictional story compiled from various sources, supported by AI, and the content is purely for entertainment and educational purposes. Miral remained rooted in the strategy chamber as the guard's dire message cut through the rain-lashed night. Like a fresh wound, the archers have been spotted moving into position earlier than expected, and one carries a message demanding the scribe's presence at the border camp by first light, or the poison will claim more than one life. The fated bonds surged within her chest, a warm, insistent tide, pulling her toward King Soran with a force that steadied her trembling hands amid the chaos. Torchlight flickered wildly across the maps, casting elongated shadows that seemed to reach like grasping fingers from the envoy's hidden threats. She felt the cinematic weight of the moment, the distant rumble of thunder mirroring the storm brewing in the council's worried faces, while the king stood tall, his alpha frame a pillar of resolve. Yet she sensed through their connection the subtle crack of exhaustion from the night's escalating perils. In her inner thoughts, empowerment flowed like a quiet river carving its path through stone. This is the third call of danger, and the bond draws me not as a discarded shadow, but as the light that pierces their deception. I have saved him twice already through ink and insight. Now the alliance forms fragile yet real, proving my journey from invisible omega to indispensable voice. The trauma of abandonment fades here, replaced by purpose that lifts me toward power I never dreamed possible. King Soran turned to her, his dark eyes meeting hers with a depth that sent a spark through the bond, his voice resonant, yet edged with urgency. Miral, the crisis deepens in council. They debate surrender or strike, but your gift has guided us true. Each time, he said, stepping closer, his presence enveloping the space like a protective cloak. The archers demand for you at the border. It reeks of their desperation after you exposed the treaty lies, and now the poison plot. I will not yield you to them, but we need your truth again before the council fractures. Stay and reveal what the message holds. She nodded, her simple gray robes whispering against the stone floor as she approached the table, where the guard had placed the sealed parchment from the archers, its wax crest gleaming mockingly under the golden light. Her fingers brushed the surface, and the convulsions came measured now like controlled waves of fire. Racing through her nerves, visions unfolding in vivid detail, the message's true intent to trap lace with false promises of truce, while concealing a larger betrayal the envoys had allied with discontented border lords to undermine the king's rule entirely, using the scribe's delivery as a diversion to infiltrate the palace undetected. The lies burned clear, 17 more deceptions woven into the words, each one a thread in a web meant to topple sovereignty. With steady purpose, she withdrew her quill and scratched out the fraudulent clauses on the parchment, her marks precise and unyielding, exposing the council crisis for what it was, a moment of potential collapse. The king watched her every stroke, his expression shifting from command to quiet, a hint of confusion softening the hard lines of his regal features as regret flickered in his gaze like distant lightning. Miral, how do you see so clearly through their veils? He asked, his voice lowering with emotional weight that resonated through the bond. The council sits in uproar, divided over whether to send you as they demand or risk open war, yet your hand unmasks it all. I feel the pull between us strengthening with each revelation, and it confuses me deeply. Years ago, I rejected our fated bond, seeing only your muteness as a flaw unfit for the throne, forcing you into scribe shadows, thinking it merciful. But now in this crisis, your truth saves us again, and I question every choice that kept you invisible. Tell me what the visions show, so we may form this alliance before it is too late. She paused, her body steadying as the fire subsided, and pulled her slate forward, writing with hand that no longer shook, the words emerging like a bridge across their shared history. The message lies, my king, it hides an infiltration plot by border lords allied with the envoys. Sending me would open the gates to them, but fortify the eastern patrols and convene the loyal council at dawn. With this proof, your sovereignty stands if we act as one. Her inner thoughts swelled with empowering clarity. He hints at regret now in this third save the bond, weaving us closer, slowly earned through danger, not decree. I was the oppressed silent one cast aside, yet here my gift gives me voice to guide him from crisis to strength. This deepens our connection, transforming his confusion into the foundation for something greater. While I rise from fear to the powerful ally the kingdom needs. Counselors gathered closer, their murmurs rising in the chamber, like a gathering gale, one elder stepping forward with hesitant doubt. My liege, the scribe's marks have saved us before, but the archers threaten immediate strike if we delay. How can we trust her visions in such high stake? King Soran raised a hand, his alpha aura steadying the room as he glanced at Miral with newfound respect. She has proven herself 3 times in this night alone, he replied, his tone firm, yet infused with genuine emotion that made the bond hum warmer between them. Her truth exposed the treaty's fraud, the poison in my chambers, and now this infiltration. The alliance forms here, fragile as morning mist, but unbreakable if we heed her. Miral, your insight has turned council crisis to opportunity. I stand with you, not above you. The cinematic tension eased slightly as orders rippled outward, guards mobilizing under the rain, while the maps seemed to breathe with renewed possibility under the torch's glow. Miral felt a profound shift, the slow burn romance emerging in these hesitant exchanges, his regret a quiet acknowledgement that mirrored her own growth from silenced pain to empowered presence. She wrote again, her response carrying quiet strength. The bond guides us both, my king, but true alliance comes from trust earned in fire. I once feared exposure after family abandonment and punishment for my gift, now it empowers me to stand beside you, changing not just this night, but the fate of all voiceless omegas. Together we forge peace. As the council began to align under the king's renewed command, Miral remained at his side, the bonds pull a gentle anchor amid the storm. She helped examine one final urgent scroll from the loyal patrols, uncovering a last hidden clause that confirmed the border lord's involvement. Her quill marked it swiftly, each stroke deepening the fragile alliance forming between them. The king leaned in slightly, his voice a private murmur meant for her alone. Miral, your presence in this crisis, it humbles me more than any crown, he confessed, the words laced with confusion and budding regret that made her heart flutter with hope. I see now the mistake of my rejection, how it silenced not just you but the truth we both needed. Stay through the dawn. This alliance may be the beginning of redemption I did not know I sought. She felt the empowerment surge fully within her, the invisible scribe no longer a memory, but a force reshaping the kingdom, one revealed lie at a time. Yet even as unity seemed to solidify in the chamber, a second messenger arrived, soaked from the downpour, his voice urgent. My king, the archers have advanced closer, and the border lords send word they hold a captured patrol. Claiming the scribe's gift is the true threat to all alphas unless delivered by sunrise. King Soran's hand brushed hers instinctively, the bond flaring with protective intensity as the mini cliffhanger hung heavy in the charged air, like the first light of a new uncertain day. Would this latest escalation shatter their fragile alliance or propel Miral and the king toward a deeper revelation that could heal his past mistake forever? The first rays of dawn pierced the strategy chamber like hesitant fingers of light filtering through the rain-streaked windows as the messenger's words still echoed off the marble walls. The archers have advanced closer, and the border lords send word they hold a captured patrol, claiming the scribe's gift is the true threat to all alphas unless delivered by sunrise. Miral felt the fated bond flare brighter, within her chest a warm, insistent current that anchored her. Amid the fading storm outside, where the thunder had given way to a soft mist rising from the gardens below, she stood close to King Soran, her simple gray robes damp with the night's tension, her pulse steady. Now with the quiet strength of 3 saves that had already reshaped her place in this world. In her inner thoughts, empowerment swelled like the morning tide, washing away the last traces of old invisibility. This latest demand from the border lords only proves my truth cannot be silenced anymore. The bond pulls us nearer with each crisis, not as master and shadow, but as equals finding their way. And I sense his heart shifting toward the regret he has carried too long. I rise from the mute scribe, who once hid her gift to the voice that guides kingdoms, and perhaps even heals a king's wounded pride. King Soran stepped forward, his broad shoulders silhouetted against the growing light, his alpha presence commanding the room, yet carrying a subtle tremor she alone could feel through their connection. He dismissed the counselors with a firm gesture, sending them to secure the borders before turning to her, his dark eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that made the air between them thicken. Miral, he said, his voice low and resonant, meant for her alone, as he guided her gently to a quiet alcove overlooking the awakening kingdom. The cinematic glow of dawn painted the distant hills in soft golds and lavenders, while the bond hummed like a living melody between them. Stay a moment. The council scatters to act on your warnings, but I cannot ignore this any longer. In that private moment, the narrative shifted fully to King Soran's perspective as regret crashed over him like a long-delayed wave. He gazed at Miral, her quiet poise, and the faint tremor of her gift still lingering in her posture, and the weight of his past mistake pressed heavy on his chest. Years ago, in the grand mating ceremony, under the same golden chandeliers, he had stood before her, the fated bond already singing in his blood, yet he had turned away, his voice cold and final. "You are too silent, too fragile for the throne," he had declared in front of the assembled nobles, seeing only her muteness and omega status as weakness unfit for a queen who must command with thunderous presence. He had assigned her the role of palace scribe, thinking it a mercy, a place where her silence would keep her safe from the cruelties of court. But now, in the soft dawn light, after she had unraveled 3 layers of betrayal with nothing but her touch and quill, he saw the truth he had blinded himself to. "My arrogance blinded me," he thought inwardly, the regret burning deeper than any battlefield scar. "I rejected our bond because I feared vulnerability, believing strength lay only in loud alphas and powerful bloodline. I made her invisible, forced her into shadows where her gift lay hidden and her voice remained mute. All while the kingdom suffered under the very deceptions she now exposes. She saved my sovereignty not once but 3 times in this single night of peril, and each mark of her quill reveals how wrong I was. The bond one once dismissed calls louder now, urging me toward redemption I may not deserve, yet I must try to earn it slowly with honest words, not royal decrees." He reached out his hand, hovering near hers without touching, the slow burn warmth of the moment building like embers in a hearth. "Miral, I have carried this regret since the ceremony," he began, his voice thick with emotion, the word emerging haltingly, as if each one cost him a piece of his armor. "I rejected you as my fated mate, because I saw only what the court taught me to value, power and voice and status, not the quiet truth you embody. Forcing you into scribe service was my mistake, a way to hide my own fear of the bond's pull. But tonight your gift has shown me the lies I never noticed, the threats I walked toward blindly. You are not weak, you are the light that pierces darkness, and I am sorry for every year I kept you invisible. If you will allow it, I seek to make amends slowly, to learn from your truth, and stand beside you, not above." His inner thoughts continued swirling with deep reflection. This apology is only the beginning. I must prove my change through actions, earning her trust as she has earned the kingdom's survival. The romance blooms not in grand gestures, but in these shared silences where her empowerment meets my humility. Miral listened, her heart responding with a surge of inner strength, the poetic imagery of dawns, light wrapping around them like a promise of new beginnings. In her thoughts she felt the empowering shift fully realized. His words acknowledged the rejection that once crushed me, the abandonment I carried from family and court alike, yet they do not demand my forgiveness, they invite it. This slow burn moment strengthens the bond earned through danger and truth, not force, and it lifts me from oppressed silence to a powerful presence who can accept or guide this change. I have found my voice through action, and now his regret opens the door for us both to transform the world. She pulled her slate forward, her quill moving with graceful purpose as she wrote the response that bridged their souls. Your regret honors the truth I have always carried, my king, but healing comes in steps, not leaps. I accept this beginning because my gift has shown me redemption is possible when the powerful choose to listen. Let us examine the remaining documents together, so my voice can continue empowering the voiceless, while your leadership learns to see what was once hidden." The king nodded, his expression softening further with a subtle smile that reached his eyes, the emotional dialogue hanging in the air like mist over the hills. Together then he replied, his voice warm with budding hope. "Your truth will guide us, Miral, and I will follow where it leads." As they turned back toward the table, the bond glowing steadily between them, a royal attendant rushed in from the corridor, his face etched with fresh alarm. "My king, the council has reconvened in haste, but new reports arrive of internal nobles questioning your alliance with the scribe, claiming her gift threatens the old order. They demand a formal hearing at noon, or they will rally against the throne." King Soran's hand brushed Miral S in quiet support, the mini cliffhanger suspended in the dawn-lit chamber like a gathering cloud. Would this political opposition shatter the fragile trust they had begun to build, or force them deeper into shared revelation before the day turned against them? Miral followed King Soran into the sunlit private study, her heart steady with the quiet glow of the bond that now felt like a living thread weaving their paths together after his vulnerable apology in the alcove. Morning light spilled through tall arched windows, casting warm golden patterns across the heavy oak. Table stacked with council parchments and scrolls that seemed to breathe with hidden secrets waiting to be unveiled. The air carried the comforting scent of aged ink and fresh parchment mingled with the distant floral breeze from the balcony gardens below, creating a cinematic haven of calm amid the kingdom's brewing storms. In her inner thoughts, a deep sense of empowerment surged like dawn breaking over shadowed hills. These shared moments examining documents together allow him to truly learn my gift, not as a weapon, but as the heart of who I am, the truth bearer who rises from invisibility to guide with quiet power. The slow burn of trust builds here, earned through his genuine curiosity, and it transforms the pain of his past rejection into a foundation for something stronger, something that gives voice to every silenced Omega, including me. She settled into the chair. He offered her simple gray robes, contrasting his regal crimson attire, yet the bond hummed warmly between them, erasing any sense of divide. King Soran leaned forward, his dark eyes filled with sincere interest as he unrolled the first document, a routine border trade agreement. "Miral, show me how it works," he said, his voice resonant, yet soft with emotional openness that made the air between them feel intimate and alive. "Touch this one, and reveal what my counsel may have overlooked. I want to understand every vision, every tremor, so I may learn from the truth I once failed to see in you." Her fingers brushed the parchment, and the familiar fire coursed through her nerves, a controlled wave, rather than a violent storm, as visions unfolded, the hidden clause inflating taxes to secretly fund alliances with discontented lords. She scratched out the fraudulent line with precise strokes, her quill dancing across the page before sliding the marked document to him. His expression shifted to one of awe and curiosity as he studied her mark. "This is extraordinary, Miral," he murmured, leaning closer, the bond sparking gently like a shared heartbeat. "Tell me what you feel in these moments. Does the gift always bring such clarity, or has it evolved since the treaty ceremony when it first saved us all?" In her thoughts, Miral felt the revelation deepening like roots taking hold in fertile soil. "He seeks to know me fully, learning the layers of my hidden gift with patience that honors my journey from oppressed silence to empowered presence." This emotional exchange builds the slow burn romance, not with grand declarations, but with honest questions that affirm my worth, and it empowers me to share without fear, knowing my truth can change him as it has changed me. She wrote on her slate, her words flowing with graceful honesty. "The fire reveals lies as poison in my veins, my king, but sharing it with you now lessens the burn. Each vision shows how deceptions have kept Omegas invisible and voiceless for too long. Your willingness to learn it here makes me feel seen for the first time since you assigned me to scribe shadows years ago." They moved through the stack together, their heads bent close in the soft light, the cinematic imagery of sunlight glinting on ink and parchment, symbolizing the unveiling of truths that had long been buried. He pointed to another clause in a land decree his finger tracing the lines with care. What does your gift show in this one Miral? I trust your insight more with every mark. She touched at the visions, flooding her with details of forged signatures meant to displace humble farming families, and she marked the falsehoods, swiftly writing her explanation beside them. The king absorbed her words, his face reflecting profound respect and a budding tenderness that warmed the bond between them. Miral, your gift unveils what entire councils miss, he replied, his voice thick with emotion as he reached across the table, his hand brushing hers in a fleeting touch that sent sparks of connection through her soul. I once dismissed our fated bond and forced you into this role thinking silence meant safety, but now I see it was my blindness that kept you hidden. Your truth empowers not just the kingdom, but my own heart to change. How did you hide such a power for so long without breaking? She felt the slow burn romance unfolding in these tender exchanges, the trust building layer by layer like a tapestry woven with patience and care. In her inner thoughts she marveled at the shift. His learning of my gift through these shared moments deepens the revelation, turning regret into alliance, and it lifts me from the mute witness to a powerful partner whose voice through ink reshapes the world around us. I am no longer invisible, and this connection earned slowly fills me with hope for every voiceless soul. She wrote back, sharing a fragment of her past with quiet strength. Hiding it kept me alive after family abandonment and punishments for speaking truth through my quill, but now with you it feels like freedom. Your questions honor the pain and turn it into power for us both. They continued the work side by side, the emotional dialogue flowing naturally as he asked more about the visions and she responded with slate and quill, each exchange strengthening the bond like sunlight nourishing new growth. King Soran nodded, his eyes softening with admiration. You humble me daily, Miral, he said, his tone carrying the weight of true transformation. This slow unveiling of truths between us, it reveals how much I have to learn and how deeply I wish to earn your trust. Your gift is not a flaw, but a light I was too proud to see before. As the noon hour drew nearer, a peaceful rhythm settled in the study, only to be interrupted when a council attendant entered with an urgent knock, his face tense. My king, the hearing is set for noon, but the opposing nobles have presented new scrolls claiming the scribe's gift corrupts Alpha rule, and they demand she demonstrate it publicly or face accusations of treason that could unravel everything we have built. King Soran's hand found hers in quiet support, the bond flaring protectively as the mini cliffhanger hung heavy in the sunlit room like a gathering cloud on the horizon. Would this escalating demand at the formal hearing test the revelations and trust they had just forged, or push them toward a confrontation that could either solidify their alliance or threaten the fragile voice she had finally claimed? The evening shadows lengthened across the private balcony, overlooking the kingdom's rolling hills as Miral stood beside King Soran, the soft glow of lanterns casting a warm, intimate light that wrapped around them like a gentle embrace after the day's revelations. A cool breeze carried the faint scent of night-blooming jasmine from the gardens below, mingling with the distant call of evening birds and creating a cinematic hush that made the vast palace feel worlds away. She felt the fated bond humming steadily between them, stronger now after the hours spent examining documents together, his presence no longer a source of distant ache, but a quiet anchor that steadied her heart. In her inner thoughts, empowerment bloomed like the stars emerging overhead. This private moment is where the slow burn truly deepens. He opens his heart, and I find the courage to communicate not just with my quill, but with the truth of who I have become. From the invisible mute scribe rejected and abandoned, I rise here as the one whose voice through actions and words can meet his regret with strength. The bond earned in these whispered exchanges empowers me to trust that my journey from silenced pain to powerful presence is unfolding as it should. King Soran turned to her, his broad shoulders relaxed under the simple tunic he had changed into for this quiet hour, his dark eyes reflecting the lantern light with a depth that spoke of burdens finally shared. Miral, he began, his voice low and resonant, carrying the weight of genuine vulnerability that made the air between them feel sacred. The revelations of today, your gift, the way you patiently guided me through those parchments, it has opened my eyes further than any council meeting ever could. I need you to know that my regret runs deeper than words. Years ago, when I rejected our fated bond at the ceremony, I convinced myself your silence was a flaw, that the throne demanded a queen who could command armies with thunderous speeches. I pushed you into the shadows of scribe work, believing it protected you from the cruelties of court, but it was my own fear that kept you invisible. Now, seeing how your truth has saved us time, and again I understand the mistake fully. You are not weak, you are the quiet force that holds the kingdom together, and I am humbled by it. I want to earn your trust slowly, day by day, if you will let me. Miral listened, her pulse quickening with a surge of inner courage, the poetic imagery of the twilight sky mirroring the transformation within her soul. For the first time, she did not hesitate, reaching for her slate and quill with steady hands writing. Not just facts, but the emotions that had long remained locked inside. Your openness honors the pain I carried, my king, she inscribed the words, flowing with newfound boldness. The rejection once left me feeling worthless, abandoned like the family who cast me out for my gift and muteness. But sharing these moments with you awakens something powerful in me. I find courage here to say that. I accept your steps toward redemption because my truth has always sought connection, not isolation. The bond feels like a shared light, now guiding us both from old wounds to something greater. She set the slate down, meeting his gaze directly, her eyes conveying the depth her voice could not. The slow burn romance unfolding in the tender space between his confession and her response. He read her words, his expression softening with a rare smile that reached his eyes, the emotional dialogue weaving them closer like threads in a tapestry of healing. Miral, your courage in writing that moves me more than any royal decree, he replied, his tone thick with sincerity as he stepped nearer, the bond flaring warmly between them like a living flame. I have spent years leading with strength alone, never allowing vulnerability, but you show me that true power lies in listening and learning from the one I once overlooked. Your gift, your quiet resilience, it inspires me to be a better king, and perhaps a worthy partner if time allows us to build this slowly. Tell me what you dream of beyond these palace walls. What voice do you wish to give to others like you? In her thoughts, Miral felt the empowerment crest like waves upon a shore. He asks not as ruler, but as equal, opening the door wider, and it gives me the strength to communicate my deepest hopes. This private exchange progresses the romance, earned through honesty, not haste, transforming us both, and lifting me to the powerful presence I was always meant to become. She wrote again, her quill moving with graceful confidence. I dream of a kingdom where omegas and the mute are not invisible, but heard through laws that protect their truths, my king. A sanctuary where gifts like mine are celebrated, not hidden. Sharing this with you now feels like claiming my voice at last. The king nodded, absorbing her words with profound respect, his hand gently covering hers on the balcony railing, a fleeting touch that sent sparks of connection through the bond. Then we will work toward that together, he promised, his voice warm with budding hope. Your dreams become mine, Miral, because your truth has already changed my heart. As the lanterns flickered softly, casting golden halos around them, the moment felt suspended in time. A cinematic bridge between past regrets and future possibilities. Miral marveled inwardly at how far she had come, the oppressed silent one now standing and whispered bonds that empowered her to envision changing the world. Yet even as peace settled in the balcony, a hurried attendant appeared at the arched doorway, his face pale with urgency. My king, forgive the interruption, but urgent word from the council, the opposing nobles have gathered. More support overnight, and they plan to introduce a formal decree at tomorrow's hearing declaring any Omega gift like the scribes as a threat to Alpha sovereignty. They threaten to rally the border lords if it is not addressed immediately. King Soran's hand tightened subtly around hers, the bond flaring with protective intensity as the mini cliffhanger hung heavy in the twilight air like an approaching shadow. Would this new political threat shatter the whispered bonds they had just strengthened, or force them into a deeper alliance before the hearing could tear everything apart? The Grand Council Hall thrummed with tension under the weight of crystal chandeliers that cast Fractured light across rows of nobles seated in carved oak benches, their faces a mosaic of suspicion and barely veiled hostility. Miral stood at the center of the marble floor beside King Soran, her simple gray robes a quiet contrast to the sea of crimson and gold finery surrounding her. The air hung heavy with the scent of polished wood and flickering candle wax, while distant thunder from the previous night still seemed to echo in the vaulted ceilings like an omen of the storm, now gathering in words rather than rain. She felt every eye upon her, not as the invisible scribe she had once been, but as the sudden threat. The mute Omega whose gift had dared to unravel the carefully woven lies of power. In her inner thoughts, empowerment rose like a steady flame against the gathering wind. This is the moment the old order strikes back, accusing me, because my truth exposes their deceptions. Yet I am no longer the silenced one hiding in shadows. The bond with the king and the revelations we shared last night have given me strength to face this conflict head-on, turning their opposition into the very fire that forges my voice louder than any they could silence. The head counselor, a stern alpha with silver streaks in his beard, rose from his high seat, his voice booming through the hall like a judge delivering sentence. We convene this emergency hearing to address the grave matter of the scribe Miral and her so-called gift. Noble lords and ladies, she has inserted herself into royal affairs, claiming to detect lies in treaties and plots alike, yet we see only a dangerous Omega who has corrupted the king's judgment with her convulsions and marks. How can we trust one who ruined a peace treaty with 17 slashes and now whispers of infiltration through mere touch? This gift threatens the very foundation of Alpha sovereignty, turning our realm into chaos where mute servants dictate to thrones. King Soran stepped forward, his Alpha presence commanding the room, his hand subtly brushing Miral's shoulder in quiet support that sent a warm pulse through their fated bond. She has saved this kingdom from betrayal 3 times in one night, he declared, his tone firm yet laced with the emotional depth she had come to recognize. Her truth revealed what your council overlooked, the fraudulent clauses, the poison, the archers. Accusing her of corruption is to accuse the light of darkness. Miral felt a surge of inner courage, the cinematic imagery of the hall sharpening in her mind the way sunlight slanted through high windows, illuminating dust motes like tiny rebels dancing against the gloom. She pulled her slate forward, her quill moving with steady grace as she wrote her defense, the word flowing not in fear, but in the empowering knowledge that her voice through ink could challenge them all. My gift exposes deception, not creates it, she inscribed, holding the slate high for the council to see. The treaty lies would have invited war, the plots would have felled the king. I stand here not to corrupt, but to protect every soul silenced by false power, Omega's mutes and the overlooked who deserve truth as much as any Alpha. The nobles erupted in murmurs, some rising to their feet with accusations flying like arrows. One portly lord with a jeweled chain across his chest pointed directly at her. She is no savior, she is a threat, a lowborn Omega whose convulsions are nothing but theater to manipulate the throne. We demand she be removed from all royal council, her gift branded dangerous, and her bond with the king dissolved before it weakens us all. Another noblewoman stood, her voice sharp as broken glass. Years ago the king rightly rejected her as mate, seeing her silence as unfit. Now he defends her while our borders tremble. This is deception from within the palace walls, born of her hidden manipulations. The tension thickened the air, growing electric as Miral met their gazes, her inner thoughts a whirlwind of resolve. They oppose me because my involvement shatters their control, the invisible becoming visible, the voiceless finding power. But I will not shrink. The trauma of past abandonments and punishments fades here, replaced by the knowledge that this conflict is my crucible, turning fear into the force that changes laws and lives. The bond with Soran steadies me, his defense a bridge we build slowly, earned through truth not force. And it empowers me to stand taller than any accusation could diminish. King Soran raised his hand, silencing the uproar, his voice resonating with quiet authority, yet carrying the regret she knew he carried for his past mistake. Miral has proven her worth beyond doubt, he said, turning to her with eyes that spoke volumes of the slow burn alliance deepening between them. Her gift is no manipulation, it is clarity, the very light this council has long ignored. Accuse her, and you accuse the survival of this kingdom. I will not dissolve what the fates have bound nor remove the one who has saved us. Instead, I propose we test her truth here and now on your own documents. Let her mark them and see if your fears hold, or if they crumble like the lies she has already exposed. Miral nodded, stepping forward as a stack of council parchments was thrust toward her, the nobles watching with narrowed eyes. Her fingers brushed the first one, the familiar fire igniting in controlled waves as visions revealed. Hidden clauses meant to favor wealthy lords over border villages. She scratched out the deceptions with precise strokes, her actions met with gasps and rising anger. The head counselor slammed his fist on the table. This proves nothing but her audacity. We move to vote on restricting her involvement entirely. If the council deems her a threat, she will be confined to the scribe's wing, stripped of any bond or audience with the king. Tension crackled through the hall like lightning, the nobles dividing into factions, some nodding in agreement, others hesitating under the king's steady gaze. Miral felt the weight of the moment, her heart pounding yet filled with empowering clarity. This political storm tests everything we have built, but it also reveals the cracks in the old ways. Cracks my truth can widen into pathways for change. The bond pulls stronger, now urging me forward as the powerful voice I was always meant to become. As the vote began to be called, a lesser counselor burst through the side doors, his face flushed with alarm, clutching a sealed scroll. My lord's urgent word from the border, the opposing nobles have secretly allied with the envoys. They claim the scribe's gift is proof of Omega uprising, and they demand the king's immediate abdication, or they march on the capital by dusk. King Soran turned sharply, his hand finding Miral's in protective urgency, the bond flaring as the mini cliffhanger hung heavy in the charged hall, like a blade poised above the throne. Would this new alliance of deception fracture the council completely, or force Miral into a public stand that could either cement her power or risk everything she had fought to claim? The Grand Council Hall erupted into a storm of shouts and slamming fists as the lesser counselors' scroll unfurled across the marble floor, its urgent seal cracking like thunder under the fractured light of the chandeliers. The opposing nobles have secretly allied with the envoys they claim the scribe's gift is proof of Omega uprising, and they demand the king's immediate abdication, or they march on the capital by dusk. Miral stood at the center of the chaos, her simple gray robes suddenly feeling like armor against the rising tide of hostility that swept the room in waves of crimson and gold. The air thickened with the scent of heated wax and fear, while shadows from the high windows stretched long and accusing across the faces of lords who now saw her not as savior, but as the spark that could ignite civil war. In her inner thoughts, a fierce, empowering resolve ignited like a beacon in the dark. This rising storm is the old world's last desperate grasp to keep the voiceless silent, but my gift has already exposed too much for them to hide behind lies anymore. The bond with Soran pulses stronger, now amid the accusations, reminding me that I am no longer the invisible scribe abandoned and punished for truth. I am the force that turns conflict into change, and even if it risks my safety, the journey from oppressed to powerful demands, I stand here exposing the deception that threatens the kingdom I have come to love. King Soran stepped forward, his alpha presence a commanding wall between her and the furious nobles, his hand resting protectively near her shoulder, sending a steady warmth through their fated bond that steadied her racing heart. This alliance they claim is nothing but the very betrayal Miral has warned us of, he declared, his voice cutting through the uproar like a blade honed by regret and newfound clarity. She has saved us from poison and arrows and fraudulent treaties. To demand my abdication because of her truth is to admit your own deceptions run deeper than any border threat. Miral, if you feel the pull of your gift, now use it on this scroll. Reveal what they hide, so this hall may see the storm they brew is of their own making. The nobles surged closer, some rising from their benches with accusations flying like arrows in the cinematic glow of slanting sunlight that painted the hall in dramatic streaks of gold and shadow. One silver-haired lord with a face twisted in rage pointed directly at her. She is the uprising, the mute Omega, whose convulsions spread lies like poison. Confine her now, or the border lords will march and the throne will fall. Another noblewoman stood, her voice shrill with panic. The king defends her because the bond clouds his judgment. Strip her of any royal audience and brand her gift as treason before dusk, or we will join the march ourselves. Miral felt the weight of every glare, yet the bond anchored her, drawing courage from the slow burn. Alliance they had built through shared revelations and whispered nights. She reached for the urgent scroll, her fingers brushing the parchment, and the fire of her gift surged. Through her veins controlled, yet intense as visions flooded her mind, revealing the full web of deceit, hidden clauses promising the border lords new titles and lands in exchange for overthrowing. The king framing her gift as the excuse for an Omega-led rebellion that never existed. The lies burned like poison in her nerves, but she held firm, her quill moving with fierce purpose as she scratched out 17 more fraudulent terms, exposing the alliance as a desperate bid to silence the truth that had already saved the throne 3 times. She held up the marked document for the hall, to see her slate following swiftly with words that carried the quiet power she had claimed. This scroll lies, my lords, it promises power to traitors while hiding their plan to install a puppet ruler and erase all Omega voices forever. My gift reveals not uprising, but their fear of change. I risk everything by standing here, but the voiceless deserve this stand. The hall descended into greater chaos, nobles shouting for her confinement while others hesitated, their faces shifting from anger to doubt under the weight of her exposed truth. King Soran turned to her, his eyes meeting hers with deep emotional intensity that resonated through the bond like a shared heartbeat. Miral, your courage in this storm humbles me again, he said, his voice low, yet carrying across the benches meant for her and the council alike. I once rejected our bond and forced you into silence, believing it kept the kingdom safe, but your truth now stands against this rising threat where my own commands falter. Stay close no matter the vote. Your safety is my priority as we face this together. In her inner thoughts, Miral felt the empowerment crest like a wave breaking against the shore. His defense and the bond weave us closer, turning this political conflict into the forge that strengthens my voice from mute witness to queenly force. The risk to my safety feels real now, with threats of confinement or worse, but it only proves how far I have come from the girl abandoned for her gift. This escalation threatens the kingdom's stability, yet my truth is the key to resolution if I can endure the storm long enough to see the dawn. The head counselor banged his gavel, demanding order, his face flushed with outrage. The evidence is clear, the scribe's marks only incite division. We vote now on immediate confinement of Miral to the scribe's wing until the border threat is quelled by force if necessary. Any further involvement will be deemed treason against Alpha rule. Tension crackled through the hall like lightning as hands rose in votes, dividing the nobles into sharp factions, some calling for her protection, others demanding her removal before dusk. Miral stood tall, her heart pounding with the cinematic weight of the moment, the chandeliers swaying slightly as if the palace itself held its breath. The bond pulled at her, urging her to prepare for whatever came next, the risk to her safety mounting with every raised voice and accusing finger. She wrote one final line on her slate, holding it high. The storm rises because truth threatens the old shadows, but I will not hide again. My gift will resolve this if you let it. As the vote neared its climax and guards shifted uneasily at the doors, a royal messenger burst through the main entrance, his cloak torn and face streaked with dust from hard riding. My king, the border lords have begun their march earlier than threatened, they claim, the scribes. Exposure of their alliance leaves them no choice but surrender or face her publicly at the city gates by midnight, or the capital burns. King Soran gripped her hand tightly, the bond flaring with urgent protective fire as the mini cliffhanger hung heavy in the fractured light of the hall, like a blade suspended over their shared future. Would this direct march force Miral into a perilous public stand, that could either shatter the kingdom or elevate her truth to the transformation the realm desperately needed. The moon hung low and silver over the ancient temple of eternal truths, its weathered stone pillars, rising like silent guardians from the mist-shrouded grove, just beyond the palace walls where Miral had been rushed under cover of urgent night. Lanterns flickered in a sacred circle, casting long dramatic shadows that danced across carved runes, of forgotten Omegas who had once wielded gifts like hers. The air hummed with the scent of burning sage and night-blooming herbs as King Soran stood at the ritual's edge, his crimson robes traded for simple white linens that made him appear both king and man, vulnerable in the face of what was to come. The border lord's march pressed against the hours like a gathering storm, their demand for her presence at the city gates by midnight, or the capital would burn echoing in every hurried preparation. Miral knelt at the center of the circle, her simple gray robes replaced by the ritual's flowing white shift that clung to her skin like a second breath. Her heart pounded with the weight of the high stakes, awakening the ancient elders chanting low, rhythmic words that vibrated through the stone beneath her knees. In her inner thoughts, a fierce, empowering surge battled the rising fear. This ritual will fully activate my gift, turning the convulsions from poison to controlled power, but the struggle feels like stepping into fire after years of hiding in shadows. I am no longer the mute scribe rejected and abandoned, the invisible one whose truth was punished. Tonight I claim the voice that changes everything, for the voiceless, rising from oppression to the queenly force the kingdom needs, even as the border threat looms. The bond with Soran anchors me, his presence a quiet promise that my transformation is earned, not forced. The high priestess and elder Omega, with eyes like polished river stones, approached, placing ancient scrolls across Miral's palms. "Touch them, child, and let the full awakening begin," she intoned, her voice steady yet laced with warning. "Your gift has stirred, but to control it before the gates you must embrace the fire without breaking." Miral's fingers brushed the parchment, and the convulsions seized her, instantly more intense than any before, waves of white-hot fire flooding her nervous system as visions crashed through her mind like a tempest. She saw the border lord's true deception, their alliance built on lies of Omega uprising while hiding their own greed for the throne, the fraudulent decrees they carried promising false peace if she surrendered. Her body arched in pain, sweat beading on her brow as she fought to remain conscious, her quill appearing in her trembling hand as if guided by the temple itself. She scratched out the false visions one by one, marking the air with invisible strokes that left glowing trails on the stone floor, exposing 17 layers of betrayal in the ritual's sacred light. King Soran stepped closer, his face etched with concern, his hand hovering near hers without touching, the bond flaring hot between them like a shared heartbeat. "Miral, hold on," he urged, his voice thick with emotional depth that cut through the chanting. "I see your strength in this struggle, the way you refuse to yield, even as the pain tests you. My past mistake in rejecting you feels heavier here, watching you fight for control I once denied you. You are transforming before my eyes from the silent shadow I forced into service to the empowered light that will face those gates with me. Tell me what you see, so I may stand with you fully." Miral gasped through the fire, her inner thoughts a whirlwind of cinematic resolve, the moon's silver light bathing her in ethereal glow as the temple runes pulsed in response to her awakening. The pain is the last chain breaking, the trauma of family abandonment and council accusations dissolving in these flames. I feel my gift expanding fully now, not just detecting lies, but weaving truth into reality, empowering me to change laws and lives. The bond pulls us as equals in this moment, his regret fueling my rise, and it gives me courage to endure for every Omega who has ever been silenced. She wrote on a ritual slate, her hand shaking yet purposeful. The visions show the border lord's final deception, my king a trap at the gates unless my gift is fully awake. I feel it strengthening the fire, turning to light within me. The elders chanted louder, their voices rising in harmony as the high priestess placed a final ancient amulet around Miral's neck, its cool stone sending a soothing counterwave through the convulsions. The transformation deepened her senses, sharpening colors vivid and sounds crystalline the world, expanding beyond the invisible life she had known. She rose slowly from her knees, her body steadying as the last tremors faded, leaving her transformed. The mute scribe now radiating an inner power that made the temple itself seem to breathe in awe. King Soran met her gaze, his alpha presence softened by profound respect and a deepening tenderness that wove through the bond like golden threads. "Miral, you have endured what few could," he said, his voice resonant with emotion that echoed off the pillars. "Your awakening humbles me again, proving my rejection was the greatest error of my reign. Together we face the gates at midnight, your truth fully alive, and mine redeemed in supporting it. The slow-burn connection between us feels unbreakable, now earned in this fire." Yet as the ritual's glow settled, and the elders bowed in silent reverence, a temple scout burst through the grove's edge, his face pale under the moonlight. "My king, the border lords have reached the outer gates earlier than warned. They demand the scribes' immediate presence, or they ignite the first fires." The capital holds its breath. King Soran gripped her hand, the bond surging with protective urgency as the mini cliffhanger hung heavy in the mist-shrouded temple, like the first sparks of dawn before a decisive battle. Would this completed awakening carry Miral through the public confrontation unscathed, or reveal one final test that could either crown her power or consume it in the flames of rebellion? The full awakening crashed through Miral like a river breaking free from centuries of ice, the temple runes glowing brighter under the moonlight as the last convulsions ebbed into a steady radiant hum that filled every vein with controlled clarity rather than poison. She rose from the sacred circle, her white ritual shift flowing around her like liquid starlight, the ancient amulet warm against her chest, pulsing in time with the fated bond that now sang openly between her and King Soran. The cinematic glow of the grove enveloped her, the mist swirling at her feet as if the earth itself bowed to the new power awakening within the mute Omega who had once hidden in shadows. In her inner thoughts, empowerment flooded every corner of her soul like dawn chasing away eternal night. "This is the completion, the flames of transformation, turning my gift from a hidden burden into a living force that I command fully. No longer do the convulsions break me, they empower me to see through every deception with precision and weave truth into the very air around us. I emerge stronger from the oppression that silenced me, the abandonment that scarred me, the rejection that once made me invisible. My voice may still be mute, but my truth now carries the weight of queens, and it will change the world for every Omega who has ever been overlooked. The bond with Soran feels alive now, a shared light that honors my journey without demanding it, and it lifts me toward the gates where my power will face its greatest test." King Soran moved to her side, his white linens catching the moonlight as he offered his arm with a reverence that made the elders bow their heads in silent approval. "Miral, you stand transformed," he said, his voice deep and resonant, carrying the emotional weight of a man who had witnessed miracles in the night. "The way you rose through that fire, it humbles me beyond word. I feel the bond stronger, clearer, and it reminds me of every mistake I made in pushing you away. Your gift now shines as the light I once feared, and I stand here not as king, but as the one who will support your emergence with everything I am. Tell me what you sense now that the transformation is complete. How does it feel to hold such power after years of hiding it?" Miral met his gaze, her eyes bright with the new clarity, the visions of the border lord's deception still fresh and sharp in her mind, showing their final desperate lies crumbling under the weight of truth. She took his arm, the contact sending a warm surge through the bond, and pulled her slate from the ritual pouch, her quill moving with graceful confidence that reflected her inner strength. "The fire has become light, my king," she wrote, the words flowing like a river of newfound power. "I see every hidden clause, every false alliance, as if they are written in flame before me. The border lords carried decrees promising peace, while planning to seize the throne and silence all Omega gifts forever. But with this transformation I can expose them fully and protect the voiceless who have waited too long. Your support here it completes my rise, making me feel not just powerful, but seen and valued for the first time since the fever stole my voice." He read her slate, his expression softening with profound respect and a tenderness that deepened the slow-burn connection between them, his hand gently covering hers as they walked from the circle toward the waiting horses at the grove's edge. "Then we ride to the gates together, Miral," he replied, his tone thick with emotion that echoed through the bond like a vow renewed. "Your transformation is not just yours, but ours, a redemption I earned by standing beside you as equal. I once forced you into scribe shadows, believing silence kept the kingdom safe, but now I see it was my blindness that dimmed its light. You emerge as the queen you were always meant to be, and I will defend that with my life if the lords force our hand." The cinematic imagery of the moonlit path stretched before them, ancient trees whispering in the breeze as the distant glow of the city gates flickered on the horizon like a beacon calling her power into the open. Miral felt the shift fully realized within her, the trauma of past punishments dissolving in the wake of this awakening, her daily invisibility, now a distant memory, replaced by the empowering reality of a woman who could alter fates with a single mark of her quill. The bond hummed steadily between them as they mounted the horses, the elders offering final blessings that lingered in the air like protective ward. Miral sensed the full extent of her gift, now not only detecting lies but channeling truth outward in waves that could influence those around her, calming the fearful and exposing the deceitful with effortless precision. In her thoughts, she marveled at the journey from the convulsing witness at the treaty ceremony to this transformed force ready to face the border threat head-on. "This power is mine to wield for change, creating space for sanctuaries where mutes and omegas find their voices and equal councils where truth rules over bloodline." Soran's support strengthens it all, turning his past mistake into the foundation of our shared legacy. And it empowers me to step into the confrontation with courage that cannot be broken. As the horses carried them swiftly toward the city gates, the night wind whipping through her hair, Miral held her slate, ready, the transformed gift already whispering of the deceptions waiting ahead. King Soran rode beside her, his profile strong in the moonlight, yet his eyes turning to her with quiet awe that made the bond glow warmer. "We arrive as one," he said softly, his voice carrying over the hoofbeat. "Your light will face their darkness, Miral, and I will be right there to witness the queen you have become." Yet even as the gates loomed closer with their towering iron and torchlit battlements, a scout galloped back from the front lines, his face pale with urgency. "My king, the border lords have formed their lines, and they demand the transformed scribe face them alone first, or they ignite the outer districts, claiming her power will curse the kingdom if not surrendered." King Soran reached for her hand across the space between their horses, the bond flaring with fierce protective energy as the mini cliffhanger hung heavy in the night air like the first sparks before a decisive dawn. Would this demand for her solitary stand test the full strength of her transformation, or reveal that her new power could turn the public confrontation into the very moment that crowned her as queen? The city gates loomed like ancient sentinels under the torchlit night sky, their iron bars glowing orange against the black velvet backdrop as Miral rode forward on her horse, the transformed power of her gift humming steadily within her like a living river of light. The border lords had formed their lines just beyond the walls, their banners snapping in the wind, while a crowd of citizens gathered on the inner ramparts, their faces a mix of fear and quiet hope. Under the dramatic flicker of flames that cast long shadows across cobblestones slick with evening dew, King Soran rode at her side, his presence a steady anchor through the bond, yet he respected the lords' demand for her solitary stand, stepping back slightly to let her approach alone, the cinematic glow of torches painting his face with lines of deep concern and unwavering support. In her inner thoughts, empowerment surged like the full moon overhead, chasing away the last remnants of doubt. "This public confrontation is my crucible, the moment the invisible Omega scribe steps fully into the light, exposing the larger lies that have silenced so many for generations. I feel the gift alive and controlled, ready to reveal deceptions on a scale that could topple old powers and I am no longer afraid. The trauma of rejection and abandonment, the years of mute invisibility, all dissolve here, replaced by the voice I claim through every mark of truth. The bond with Soran strengthens me, reminding me that his regret has become alliance, and together we rise as equals, changing the world, one exposed falsehood at a time. She dismounted at the gates, her white ritual shift flowing around her like captured moonlight, drawing gasps from the crowd and uneasy murmurs from the lords who watched with narrowed eyes. The head border lord, a tall alpha with a scarred face and jeweled cloak, stepped forward holding a heavy parchment high, his voice booming across the open space. You, the transformed scribe, come alone as demanded, or we ignite the districts. Your gift is the curse, we claim it spreads Omega uprising and weakens Alpha rule. Sign this surrendered decree, or face the fire of our march. Miral met his gaze without flinching, the bond with Soran pulsing warmly from behind her like a silent promise that she was not truly alone. She approached the parchment, her fingers brushing its surface, and the gift awakened fully, the controlled fire revealing every hidden clause in vivid waves, the document promising false peace, while concealing plans to seize the throne, install puppet rulers, and outlaw all Omega gifts, branding them as threats to sovereignty. 17 larger deceptions burned clear, each one part of a web that extended to council noble inside the palace who had secretly funded the alliance. Her hand moved with graceful precision, the quill appearing as if summoned by the night itself as she scratched out the fraudulent terms one by one, her marks glowing faintly in the torchlight for the entire crowd to witness. The lords' faces shifted from arrogance to shock as the exposed parchment fluttered in the wind, revealing their betrayal in plain view. Emotional dialogue broke the stunned silence as the head lord lunged forward, his voice thick with rage. This is trickery, she marks lies where there are none. Seize her before her convulsions spread chaos to us all. But Miral stood taller, pulling her slate from the ritual pouch and writing swiftly, holding it high, so the citizens on the ramparts and the lords alike could read her empowering words. Your decree lies, my lords, it hides the seizure of the throne and the silencing of every Omega voice like mine. I expose these truths not to curse, but to free the voiceless who have suffered under false power for too long. My gift awakened fully shows the path to real peace, where mutes and Omegas stand equal, not invisible. The crowd stirred with murmurs, turning to cheers as her truth resonated, their faces lighting with hope in the cinematic play of fire and shadow. King Soran stepped forward, then his voice carrying across the gates with resonant emotion. Miral has faced this confrontation with courage that shames us all, he declared, his eyes meeting hers with profound respect that deepened the bond between them. I once rejected her as mate, believing silence meant weakness, but her public stand here reveals my mistake and the strength she brings to the throne. These exposed lies demand justice, not fire. The nobles among the lords faltered, some lowering their weapons as the citizens' chants grew louder, calling for truth and equality. In her inner thoughts, Miral felt the full empowering arc of her journey cresting like a wave upon the shore. This is the voice I have claimed, not through sound, but through actions that echo across the kingdom. The public exposure of their larger deceptions turns their threat into my platform, rising me from oppressed shadow to the powerful force that gives voice to every silenced soul. The bond with Soran weaves us closer, his support earned slowly transforming his regret into partnership, and it fills me with the certainty that I can change laws and lives starting now. She wrote again on her slate, her quill steady as the night wind carried her message farther. I stand not alone, but for all who have been mute and overlooked. Let this confrontation end the old deceptions and begin the era where truth rules. The head lord snarled in defeat, gesturing to his archers, yet the crowd surged forward, blocking their path, their voices uniting in support of the scribe who had exposed the betrayal. King Soran moved to her side, his hand finding hers in open view, the bond flaring with shared triumph, as the lords began to retreat under the weight of witnessed truth. Yet even as victory seemed to settle over the gates, and the citizens cheered, a final desperate lord broke from the lines, clutching a hidden scroll, his face twisted with malice. The scribe thinks she has won, but this final decree from our allies inside the palace will prove her gift a lie once, and for all, he shouted, flinging the parchment toward her feet. King Soran tensed, pulling her closer protectively, as the mini cliffhanger hung heavy in the torchlit night like a final arrow poised before release. Would this last hidden deception unravel everything Miral had exposed, or force her transformed power into a stand that would finally crown her as the queen who changed the realm forever? The grand throne room of the eternal palace blazed with the light of 1,000 candles, their flame dancing like living stars across the vaulted ceilings and polished marble floors where Miral stood at the center of destiny itself. The Border Lord's final hidden decree lay exposed at her feet, its fraudulent clauses scratched out in glowing trails by her fully awakened gift, the last desperate deception crumbling under the weight of truth, witnessed by the entire gathered court and citizens who had flooded in from the gates. The air hummed with the scent of fresh ink and blooming roses from garlands draped over every pillar, the cinematic glow wrapping the room in golden warmth that mirrored the fire now fully hers. In her inner thoughts, empowerment swelled like a symphony reaching its crescendo. This moment crowns everything: the convulsions that once broke me, the invisibility that once defined me, the rejection that once silenced me, all transformed into this queenly power that I claim not by force, but by the truth I have always carried. I stand here no longer the mute scribe forced to witness lies, but the voice that reshapes the kingdom for every Omega and silenced soul who dreamed of more. The bond with Soran pulses steady and warm beside me, his support earned through every slow step of revelation, turning his past mistake into the foundation of our shared reign. King Soran stepped forward, his crimson robes catching the light as he took her hand openly before the assembled nobles and elders, his alpha presence radiating pride and deep emotion that resonated through their fated connection like a vow fulfilled. Miral, the people have seen your truth, exposed the final scroll that would have sealed their betrayal. He declared, his voice ringing clear and resonant across the hall. You faced the gates alone and emerged victorious, your gift awakening not just yourself, but the hope of this realm. Today I crown you not as mate alone, but as my queen, the rightful sovereign whose light has illuminated every shadow we once ignored. Will you accept this crown and the laws we forged together? The crowd held its breath, the nobles who had opposed her now bowing their heads in stunned silence. As the high priestess approached, carrying the ancient circlet of intertwined silver and gold etched with runes of truth and equality, Miral nodded, her heart overflowing as the circlet settled upon her brow, its cool weight feeling like the gentle embrace of every voiceless ancestor who had waited for this day. She pulled her slate forward, her quill moving with graceful authority, writing the first proclamation that would echo through history. As queen, I decree the first law, the voice of truth act. Every document in the kingdom must bear an Omega witness like myself to expose deception and protect the powerless. No longer will mutes or Omegas remain invisible in courts or councils, their gifts celebrated, not hidden. Emotional dialogue flowed from the king as he turned to the court, his hand never leaving hers, the bond glowing brighter with each word. Miral, your first law honors the journey I once tried to dim, he said, his tone thick with genuine remorse and admiration that made the entire hall lean forward. I rejected our bond years ago, believing silence meant weakness, but your public stand and awakened power have shown me the true strength lies in voices like yours rising together. This change begins with us, and I pledge to support every law you envision, building a kingdom where chosen family outweighs old bloodlines. In her inner thoughts, Miral felt the empowering arc complete, the trauma of family abandonment and council accusations fading like mist at sunrise, replaced by the profound certainty of her new role. I am queen now, the powerful one who changes laws with a single mark of truth, lifting every silenced Omega from oppression to opportunity. The romance between us burns slow and true, earned in fire and revelation, and it empowers me to envision sanctuaries where gifts flourish, equal councils where all are heard, and a future where no child hides their light as I once did. She wrote again, her words flowing with quiet majesty. The second law establishes the sanctuary of voices, an academy for mutes and omegas to train there. Gifts and safety, turning hidden talents into the kingdom's greatest strength. No punishment for truth, no abandonment for difference. The nobles murmured in agreement, some with tears in their eyes, as the crowd erupted in cheers that shook the chandeliers like thunderous applause from the heavens themselves. King Soran led her to the dual thrones, their hands intertwined as they sat side by side, the cinematic imagery of the room transforming from tense confrontation to radiant celebration banner, unfurling from the rafters bearing symbols of quills and open books. He leaned closer, his voice soft, yet carrying the emotional depth of redemption fully realized. Miral, my queen, you have changed everything, he murmured, the bond singing between them like a living melody. Your laws will echo for generations, and I stand beside you, humbled and grateful for the mistake that led us here. Together we build this legacy, one truth at a time. Miral felt a profound warmth spread through her chest, the slow burn romance reaching a tender peak. In this public declaration, her inner voice whispering of the bright horizon ahead. This queenship is my voice made manifest, the invisible girl, now the one who empowers the world, and it fills me with unstoppable hope for every soul that will never know the chains I broke. As the cheers continued, and the first scribes rushed forward to record her new laws, a young Omega girl from the crowd approached the throne, steps, her eyes wide with awe, clutching a small parchment of her own. My queen, she said, her voice trembling yet brave. Your truth has given me courage to reveal a hidden gift in myself. Will the sanctuary welcome me? Miral smiled, writing swiftly on her slate with welcoming warmth. Yes, child, and all like you. This is the beginning of voices united. Yet even as the hall filled with joyous celebration, and the laws began their first official inscriptions, a royal messenger slipped through the side doors, his face etched with quiet urgency, clutching a sealed missive from distant provinces. My queen, the border regions send word of lingering factions who question the new laws, claiming they upset the old balance. King Soran glanced at the message, his hand tightening protectively around hers, the bond flaring with shared resolve as the mini cliffhanger lingered in the triumphant air, like a final cloud before clear sky. Would these distant challenges test the fresh laws and her queenship so soon, or prove that her truth had already planted seeds of unbreakable change across the realm? The grand throne room hummed with the afterglow of her first proclamations as Miral sat upon the dual throne, her silver and gold circlet gleaming under the chandeliers like a beacon for every silenced soul in the kingdom. The distant province's message about lingering factions questioning the new laws lingered in the air, like a final shadow, but she felt her fully awakened gift pulse with calm authority, ready to weave truth into resolution rather than conflict. The crowd remained gathered, nobles and citizens alike, their faces lifted in quiet awe as the scent of fresh parchment and blooming roses filled the space, the cinematic light of evening sun streaming through high windows, painting the marble in hues of rose and gold. In her inner thoughts, empowerment flowed like an endless river, carving new paths through ancient stone. These lingering doubts are the last echoes of the old world trying to hold power, but my truth now stands as queen, ready to establish sanctuaries and councils that lift every omega and mute from invisibility to equal voice. I have become the powerful one who changes laws not with force, but with the light that exposes and heals, and it fills me with profound certainty that my journey from rejected scribe to sovereign has reshaped not just my life, but the realm for generations. The bond with Soran beside me feels complete, a slow burn romance earned through every shared revelation, and it empowers me to envision the bright future where chosen family becomes the true bloodline of the kingdom. She rose gracefully from the throne, her white ritual shift now adorned with the royal sash of truth, her hand still linked with the king's as she addressed the court with slate and quill held high. The lingering factions fear change, because it frees what they once controlled, she wrote her word, projected onto large viewing parchments for all to read. but my gift reveals their questions stem from hidden clauses in old treaties meant to suppress Omega voices forever. I decree the Sanctuary of Voices Academy be established at once in the Eastern Groves, a place where mutes and Omegas train their gifts, safely turning hidden talents into the kingdom's greatest strength. No child will hide their light, as I once did. No family will abandon another for different. The second law creates the equal council, where Omegas and Alphas sit together with equal voice, every decision marked for truth before it becomes law. These changes honor the voiceless and build a realm where power serves all, not the few. The nobles who had once opposed her now nodded in agreement, some with tears tracing their cheeks as scribes rushed to inscribe the decrees, the crowd erupting in unified cheers that echoed like a rising dawn. King Soran stood with her, his arm around her waist in open partnership, his voice resonant with emotional depth that wove through the bond like golden threads of redemption. Miral, my queen, your vision for the sanctuary and equal council humbles me once more, he said, turning to face her fully before the court, his eyes soft with the slow burn tenderness that had grown through every crisis and revelation. I once forced you into scribe shadows, believing my rejection protected the throne, but your laws now prove it was my blindness that dimmed us all. I pledge to support the Academy with every resource and sit beside you in the equal council, not as ruler above, but as partner beside. Your truth has redeemed my mistake and opened my heart to the love that was always meant to be ours, earned slowly in fire and quiet moments. Tell me what more you dream for this legacy, so I may help build it with you. In her inner thoughts, Miral felt the romance deepen like roots entwining beneath rich soil, the king's words affirming her full empowerment after years of oppression. He sees me now not as the mute Omega he dismissed, but as the powerful queen whose voice reshapes everything. In this shared vision turns our bond into the foundation of true partnership. I am complete in this moment, rising from silent pain to the one who grants voices to the voiceless. And it fills me with unstoppable hope for the sanctuary, where children like the young Omega from earlier will flourish without fear. She wrote her response with graceful authority, the quill flowing across the slate as the court watched in rapt silence. The sanctuary will open its doors at first light, my king, with halls for training gifts and gardens for healing old wounds. The equal council will convene weekly, ensuring every law bears the mark of truth, protecting chosen family over outdated bloodline. Together we change the world, not for glory, but for every soul that once felt invisible as I did. The bond between us strengthens with each law, making our slow burn romance the quiet force that empowers the realm. As scribes recorded her words and servants began preparations for the Academy's immediate founding, the cinematic imagery of the throne room transformed into a tapestry of hope, banners of quills and open books unfurling from the rafters, while citizens approached with small gifts of ink and parchment, symbols of the voices now freed. Miral felt the profound shift within her, the trauma of past abandonments and council accusations now distant memories replaced by the radiant certainty of queenship that changed laws and lifted lives. The young Omega girl from earlier returned with her family, their faces bright with gratitude as they pledged to join the sanctuary the moment it opened. King Soran leaned closer, his voice a private murmur, meant for her alone amid the celebrations. Miral, you have become the queen who heals what I once broke, he confessed, the words carrying deep emotion that made the bond glow warmer between them. Your laws and the Academy, they represent the redemption I sought, and the love I now cherish slowly and truly. I see our future in these changes, a kingdom where our bond inspires equality, and where no one stands silent again. She smiled, meeting his gaze with quiet strength, writing a final personal line on her slate just for him. And I see you as the king who learned to listen, my love, turning mistake into partnership that empowers us both. This is our legacy beginning. Yet even as the hall filled with joyous planning, and the first stones for the sanctuary were symbolically laid in the courtyard below, a trusted elder from the equal council approached the throne with a sealed missive, his expression hopeful yet cautious. My queen, the distant province's factions have sent word they wish to join the Academy and council, but only if the heir to the throne is presented as symbol of the new era within the year. King Soran glanced at the message, his hand tightening gently around hers, the bond flaring with shared anticipation, as the mini cliffhanger hung softly in the triumphant air like the first light of a bright, unending dawn. Would this call for an heir deepen their legacy into the future they both envisioned, or require one final act of truth to unite the realm completely? The sun rose over the newly built sanctuary of voices, its white stone towers gleaming like beacons of hope against the eastern groves where Miral walked hand in hand with King Soran, the air filled with the laughter of children and the soft rustle of quills on parchment. The academy had opened its doors at first light, just as she had decreed, welcoming omegas and mutes from every corner of the kingdom, their faces bright with the freedom she had once only dreamed of in her days of invisibility. Gardens bloomed with healing herbs, and open pavilions hosted training circles where young ones practiced their emerging gifts under gentle guidance, the cinematic light of morning painting, everything in soft golds and greens that mirrored the transformation of her own life. In her inner thoughts, a profound sense of completion washed over her like a gentle wave after a long storm. This sanctuary is the legacy I fought for, the place where no child will ever feel the abandonment I knew or hide their truth, as I once did in fear of punishment. My journey from the mute scribe rejected at the ceremony, convulsing over fraudulent clauses, to the queen who changed the laws has come full circle, empowering every voiceless soul to rise just as I have. The Equal Council convenes today in the Grand Hall, their voices united, alphas and omegas marking documents together with my gift, ensuring truth rules over old deceptions, and it fills me with unstoppable joy knowing the powerless now hold real power. King Soran squeezed her hand, his alpha presence warm and steady beside her, his eyes reflecting the same awe he had shown since her full awakening at the temple. Miral, my queen, look at what your vision has built, he said, his voice deep and resonant with emotion that resonated through their fated bond like a melody of redemption fully realized. The sanctuary teems with life, children discovering their gifts without fear, and the Equal Council already reshaping our kingdom with fairness I once could not see. I stand here humbled by every step of your journey from the shadows I forced upon you to this bright light that guides us all. Your truth exposed the lies that bound us, and now it creates a future where chosen family matters more than bloodlines. I once rejected our bond, believing silence meant weakness, but today I see the strength in every quiet mark you made, and I am grateful beyond words for the love we have earned slowly through fire and revelation. Tell me what you feel as we watch this legacy unfold. Miral paused in the garden path, her heart swelling with empowering certainty, the bond humming warmly between them as she pulled her slate and quill, writing with graceful authority that reflected her complete transformation. I feel whole, my king, she inscribed the words, flowing like a river of light. The academy shelters those who were once invisible, just as I was. The Equal Council gives them voice in every law, and together they ensure no omega or mute will suffer the trauma I endured. Our bond has become the heart of this change, turning your past mistake into the foundation of equality, and it empowers me to dream even bigger for the bright future ahead. She glanced toward the central courtyard where the first Equal Council session had begun, nobles and commoners sitting side by side reviewing treaties, with her gift guiding the marks that exposed any lingering deception. The children nearby practiced their own small truths, one young omega revealing a hidden talent for detecting false promises in simple letters, their laughter rising like music that healed old wounds across the realm. As the day unfolded, the cinematic imagery of the sanctuary came alive with purpose, scribes training in open halls, elders sharing stories of silenced pasts, and families reuniting without fear of difference. Miral and Soran walked among them, the king listening intently as she wrote guidance for the council, ensuring every decision carried the mark of truth that protected the powerless. In her thoughts she marveled at the full arc of her story, the oppressed silent girl who fainted over the contract, now the queen whose laws had rewritten the kingdom from invisible to powerful. The romance between them had deepened into a steady flame, slow and earned through every crisis and quiet moment. His regret transformed into devoted partnership that inspired the entire realm. They paused at the heir's garden, a peaceful space prepared for the future where a child of their bond would one day learn the value of truth from birth. Soran turned to her, his hand resting gently on her waist, his voice soft with hope. Miral, the provinces have united under the new laws, and the equal council thrives because of you, he murmured. Our heir will grow in this world of voices, united, a symbol of the bright future we have built. Together, chosen family stronger than any old bloodline. I love you not as king to queen, but as man to the woman who changed everything. She wrote her response, her quill steady with quiet joy. And I love you for walking this path with me. My king, the heir, will inherit a kingdom where power serves truth and every child finds their voice. This legacy, the sanctuary, the council, the bright horizon of equality, it is ours together, and it will endure beyond us, empowering generations to come. The sun climbed higher, bathing the academy in radiant light as citizens gathered for the first public council meeting, their cheers echoing through the groves like a promise fulfilled. Miral felt the empowering finality of her journey complete, the mute Omega scribe, now the queen whose truth had given voice to the voiceless and power to the powerless. The bond with Soran glowed steady and true, their slow burn romance, the quiet force behind every change, ensuring the kingdom would never return to shadows. As the day turned to a golden afternoon, with the equal council passing its first unified law, protecting all gifts, the future stretched bright and endless before them, filled with academies that healed, sanctuaries that lifted, and a legacy where no one stood invisible again. Her story has come to an end, but our journey together continues. If you found this story inspiring and meaningful, please like the video to support me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next empowering stories. And if you have any thoughts about the characters, her journey, or want to share your own story, please comment below. I really look forward to reading and chatting with you.